Hello and welcome to the retro restore of a Commodore Vic 20. As you can see, the Vic 20 is in the right state. The case is very yellowed and has many years of dirt built up. There is some kind of stain on the right of the function keys, which could be a problem when retrobrighting. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And the grill at the top has been covered at some point, as it's not as yellowed as the rest. So before we begin, let's do a quick history lesson on the Vic 20. The Vic 20 was launched in 1980, 3 years after the Commodore's first PC, the Commodore PET. It was sold for $300, which is around $800 in today's money. And yeah, everyone complains about PlayStation and Xbox prices. It was also the first computer to sell over 1 million units.
Why buy just a video game from Atari or Intellivision? Invest in the wonder computer of the 1980s for under $300, the Commodore Vic 20. Unlike games, it has a real computer keyboard. With the Commodore Vic 20, the whole family can learn computing at home. Plays great games, too. Under $300, the wonder computer of the 1980s, the Commodore Vic 20.
Coming soon, Commodore brings you Gorf, the wonder arcade game, and Omega Race in home versions. Commodore.
Inside the Vic 20 you can find just 5k of static RAM, the MOS 6502 CPU and the MOS Technology Vic video chip. There were over 300 titles available on cartridge and many more available on cassette tape. Peripherals included the dataset tape, a disk drive and super expander cartridges which range from 3k up to 64k. That's enough of the history lesson, let's get on with cleaning this poor thing up. Opening the case is easy, there's just 3 screws on the bottom to remove, then you can flip it back over and the top will open on the front. There are some clips on the back, so be careful when opening. Once opened you can see there's wires for the keyboard and power LED going from the bottom to the top half of the case. The RF shield is a bit of cardboard with like a shitty metallic foil on one side. Lifting this up gives you a better look at the connections for the keyboard and LED, which can then be removed, and this will separate the two halves. The motherboard can then be removed from the case by unscrewing several screws. The motherboard looks to be in good condition, no leaking capacitors or corrosion, just a little bit of dust. So we will clean this up later in the video. The cheapo RF shield can now be removed, and that's the bottom half of the case disassembled. The top half has the keyboard and power LED, so we need to get those out. There's several screws holding the keyboard in place, and once removed the keyboard should come out just fine. The keyboard is in good condition, all the keys are pressable so there are no broken plungers. The text on the keys are a bit yellowed, so we will clean those up and see if they need retrobrighting or not. Most likely there's decades of dust and God knows what else under the keys. I forgot to record the spacebar when removing it, but gently lift it up and there will be a metal bar holding the key in place. There's 2 little grips on the actual keyboard, so you can remove the bar from it afterwards. As expected, the keyboard base is full of dirt, dust and everything else, but there is no physical damage, so we should be able to make this nice again. Once all the keys have been removed, they can go into some warm water with a bit of fairy liquid and let that soak for 30 minutes or so. As always, the water shouldn't be too hot, otherwise you might make the keys go soft and out of shape. Whilst they are soaking, let's take a look at the keyboard. Using a brush, I remove all the loose dirt before anything, so it does not get clogged up everywhere. You can see how much dirt's already come off. Now all the loose dirt is off, I sprayed some isopropyl alcohol and let that work into the tougher dirt for a short while. Then with the brush, go over the keyboard again, giving it a good scrubbing. Then with some cotton pads, wipe over the keyboard to remove all the dirt. These pads are very good, definitely recommended, as you can see how much dirt has come off. And then to finish up and remove any loose bits, I use the Compu Cleaner air blower just to give it a good blast. This thing can push leaves around the garden, so it's highly recommended if you go through a lot of compressed air cans. Now on to cleaning the case, starting with the top half. First I need to remove the power LED. Using some pliers you can remove the small plastic ring on the bottom, then flip the case over and push the LED through to the bottom. This case is proper filthy. This video should have an 18 certificate. So I'll start cleaning it with some warm water and fairy liquid to get a better look at the case. There's that strange stain on the right of the function keys which doesn't look good. The water is doing an okay job, but some of the dirt is proper stubborn to remove. So I'm going to try some isopropyl alcohol and the Mrs. Toothbrush. After giving this a good scrubbing, I am still not happy as there's a lot of dirt, so we will come back to this in a short while. I repeat the process for the bottom half of the case. Again, some warm water and fairy liquid to start off with, then alcohol and the toothbrush. But like the top half, some of the dirt is not coming out. This has taken so long I forgot about the keyboard's keys and springs, so I am quickly taking them out of the water, cleaning and drying them with a towel. Some of the dirt has come off, but the keys text is still a bit yellowed, so I will re-brighten them just for a short while, just to refresh the colour. And going back to the cases, I need to get this clean as much as possible before retrobrighting, so I'm going to try some baking soda and try scrubbing the dirt out. This acts as a very mild abrasive and lifts the dirt up when you work it in with a toothbrush. After some time, the majority of the dirt and the stains were gone, but that stain on the right is still there. I don't know, maybe it was a manufacturing fault or something scuffed it before I got the case. Repeat the process for the bottom half of the case and dry everything out ready for retrobrighting. The top half of the case is the most yellowed, so I will be starting off with that. Check my Atari STFM Retro Restore video for more detailed information on retrobrighting, as it will save time going over everything again in this video. I cover up the VIC-20 logo and power badges with some masking tape to help keep the cream off. I use peroxide cream and a UV box as it's now autumn in the UK and yeah, the sun ain't coming back until next year. I put some cream on the brush and cover the keyboard. Usually I do this in a pot, but instead I thought to try pouring the cream straight on the case just to see if it helps with the distribution. Yeah, this does seem to work better, so make sure that all the surface is well covered and that any grooves and edges are covered especially. Once all covered, you can wrap it up in cling film to help keep the cream from evaporating. Try and get it as airtight as possible, and then it is put into the Retrobrighting box. Check it every hour or two just to massage the cream around and to check that it's not dried out. I then repeat the process for the bottom half of the case. The yellowing is very uneven on the bottom, so it will be interesting to see how this side turns out. Then again, getting it wrapped up in cling film and into the Retrobrighting box. And next up is the keyboard keys. As mentioned, the text is a little yellowed, so I'm going to put these to Retrobright just for a short while. Only the top part of the keys have cream on them, as that's where it's needed. To save time, I've not shown any washing of the parts after they have been retrobrighted. Simply rinse them off with water and dry them with a towel or air blower if you have one. Everything has been cleaned up and is hopefully still in working order. And now time to put everything back together and get it fully tested. All the keys have springs, so let's first put those back on. And then it's simply a case of referring to a keyboard photo and putting all the keys back on the keyboard. They push down onto the plunger fairly easily, but do make sure they are fully pushed in. The motherboard itself is in good condition with no corrosion and so on, so I think it just needs a general clean up. I start with a quick air blow to remove any loose dust, and then a few sprays of alcohol and gently brush over with an anti-static brush. And repeat the process for the other side of the board. The expansion contacts are looking a bit dull and dirty, and it's always best to clean them with some contact cleaner. Spray some on the contacts, let it work in for a moment or two, and then use a cotton bud to clean the contacts. I recommend going up and down each contact instead of across, as you may accidentally lift the contact from the motherboard. The crappy RF shield, add a quick clean and simply slots into place via the screw holes on the bottom of the case. The motherboard can then be fitted, again using the screw holes to align it. Then we can add the screws for the board to the case. And yeah, that's the bottom half of the case complete. The keyboard and power LED need to be fitted to the top half of the case. Fitting the keyboard again just requires aligning the screw holes and putting the screws back in. And for the power LED, push the LED through the hole and you can simply push the plastic ring back in place. Double check everything is looking okay and you have not forgotten anything. And then the power LED and keyboard cables can be reattached to the motherboard. Join the top and bottom halves of the case together and flip it over. Screw the case screws back in at the bottom and it's job done. Time for the unveil. Before we get on with the unveil, let's take a very quick look at the VIC-20 beforehand. The case was very yellowed in most areas and there was that strange stain on the right side of the case. There was a few scratches here and there, but mainly on the bottom, so you wouldn't see them. And here is how it looks now. Overall, the retro restore has gone well. However, that stain on the right is still there. It definitely looks like a defect in the case, or maybe some kind of like scuff mark or something, as it goes right through the plastic. Anyone have any ideas what it could be? Other than that, all of the yellowing is gone, and yeah, the case looks much more like how it should be. It's not perfect, but it's far nicer to look at. And now let's get it powered on for a proper test. Everything is plugged up, including a Commodore cassette player, joystick, and just out of sight a Pi1541, which I will show later on. Powering on the VIC-20 shows the red light, which is a good sign. And we have life. I will check the keyboard first, which appears to be working okay. There is a slight delay in the screen displaying anything, as the video is going through an AV to HDMI converter, then a capture card. I have a bunch of VIC-20 game cartridges which were not working before. I have cleaned the cartridge contacts, and we can now check if they work. We're starting off with Star Battle. It seems to be working, but the display is not centered. This might be from going through the converters and capture card though. I will switch over to capture card for the rest of the games. Star Battle is an OK Space Invaders clone. It's got nice sound effects, especially the bass. Mole Attack is a Whack-A-Rat style game. It's a bit hard to play with the display delay, but otherwise looks okay. Voodoo Castle is a text adventure by the legendary Scott and Alexis Adams. I will definitely check this one out further after the video, as I love text adventures. Next, I want to try the Pi1541, which is a Commodore 1541 Disk Drive emulator, which is running off a Raspberry Pi 3. I will show this in more detail in a future review, but essentially it allows you to load disk images from an SD card into compatible Commodore devices such as the VIC-20 and Commodore 64. There is a SD card file browser program which you can access as you would loading any disk, and once the menu's up you simply select a compatible file such as a .prg and it will start to load it. I was planning to show Astro Nell, but unfortunately the joystick's left direction does not work, so I will need to fix that. In the meantime, here is a quick look at Road Rally whilst I'll go over my thoughts on the Retro Restore. Overall, I am very pleased with the results. The case was extremely dirty and yellowed, and yeah, I reckon it come up amazing looking compared to before. It is a pity I couldn't get rid of that stain though, so yeah, we'll just call it a battle scar. Apart from the left direction on the joystick, which I hope to fix shortly, everything else is working great. This has been a fun retro restore and the end result looks great. Thanks for watching this Commodore VIC-20 retro restore. I hope you have enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you have not already, and check out the previous retro restores and more, and I hope to see you in the next video.